Hello and welcome to a new episode of Cultural Magazine, where we bring you the latest cultural events taking place around the country. So have a look at today's episode.
Under the patronage of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the activities of our heritage exhibition were recently inaugurated in Cairo. 5 Arab countries are participating in the exhibition, and more than 1,100 heritage and art projects from Egypt, and an entire pavilion has been dedicated to the products of project owners from villages and centers of the Decent Life Initiative, whose projects and products development were funded in our Heritage 2022 exhibition. Our Heritage exhibition, in its 4th edition, 2022, hosts about 1,100 exhibitors of artists and craftsmen in the field of traditional and handicraft products from various governorates. The exhibit is a great gathering for craftsmen from all over Egypt, enabling participants to display their heritage-inspired crafts through distinctive displays for thousands of visitors of fine taste and lovers of acquiring these crafts and artistic artworks. Our heritage promotes traditional and artistic crafts, encourages the exchange of experiences between craftsmen on the one hand, and also young people wishing to learn handicrafts to start their own projects through the demonstrations of handicrafts inside the exhibition to preserve these professions from extinction and to spread artistic culture between different generations. Egypt has a diversified balance of handicrafts and arts created by the inhabitants of the Nile Valley to create their own unique civilizations throughout the ages. These crafts and arts reflected the culture of the original Egyptian people, depicted their identity with the beauty and diversity they had acquired. They now reflect a unique synthesis of Pharaonic, Islamic, and Coptic civilizations to transcend borders to fascinate the world. Our heritage exhibition is the largest annual event organized in Egypt, bringing together craftsmen and skilled professionals in handicrafts and heritage from all governorates of the country, with its cultural and civilizational diversity, in order to display thousands of diverse and unique pieces of art inspired by the ancient Egyptian heritage, such as accessories, antiques, textiles, decorations, and beautifully crafted works, heritage-inspired paper in a modern way that suits all tastes. Under the patronage of the Minister of Culture, Dr. Naveen Kilani, the Cairo Opera House, headed by Dr. Magdi Sabir, recently celebrated its 34th anniversary. On the grand stage, the Abdel Halim Nouera Ensemble for Arabic Music, led by Maestro Salah Ghobashi and Maestro Ahmed Amir, restored the atmosphere of the time of beautiful music and art and shed light on examples of the most important works that shaped the history of classical Arabic music, or the so-called Tarab, as it succeeded in presenting all forms and templates of Arabic music that the opera theaters witnessed over the course of 34 years. These works were brilliantly performed by Mustafa Nagdi, Tamer Abdel Nabi, Walid Haidar, and many, many more. The celebration began with a documentary film prepared by Studio Editing that narrated the history of the Opera House since its inauguration in 1988 until now, and the most important activities and performances that were held on or outside its theaters. The plastic arts sector celebrates the life of the late artist Mohammad Tahan Art through a large retrospective exhibition in honor of his memorable artworks. Head of the plastic arts sector, Dr. Khalid Surur, recently inaugurated the exhibition at the Gezira Arts Center in Zamalek in the presence of a group of artists and critics. In his speech at the event, Dr. Surur stated the retrospective exhibition of the late artist Mohammad Tahan carries two messages. The first is a message of appreciation for the history of one of the leaders of the plastic arts sector. As for the second message, which goes to his spirit, it is that his creative inheritance will live on to preserve his status within the record of Egyptian artists. The Cultural Ministry official also elaborated the late artist Mohammad Tahan can be described as the typical Egyptian spirit, free of pretension, which was clearly reflected in his popular themes, ornaments, elements, and originality. This is so in a way that the surfaces of his paintings are similar to the pharaonic murals that document and preserve the customs, traditions, and identity of the ancient Egyptians. Artist Mohammad Tahan was born in 1946 and died in 2021. He graduated from the Higher Institute of Fine Arts of Leonardo da Vinci in 1973, and he was a member of the Syndicate of Fine Arts and many other art associations. Tahan's artistic record is full of solo exhibitions as well as local and international group exhibitions. He has led a number of major artistic events in Egypt and abroad, and during his career he received many awards and honors from Egypt and abroad. The late artist has held exhibitions in official institutions and museums in Egypt, Yugoslavia, and Romania, as well as individual ones.
Egypt has a long-standing history with many nations around the world where they have cultural exchange programs between them, so we can bridge gaps between us. Let's go find out more about these exchanges.
Relations between Egypt and India have a long history. The two countries enjoy very strong ties. India by the Nile Festival continues its activities at Cairo Opera House. A number of shows were recently held and fans highly interacted with them.
I'm done. Someone turn on a light, please. You may proceed.
My God! It all began with a nondescript kitchen knife and a sword. You see, my lord, to learn the art of slicing onions.
So this show is the Arabian Nights, the very famous story of Arabian Nights. It's called The Nights, and this show premiered last year in France, and now this is the second premiere in Egypt. It has not performed in India, so it's very special that we are here. And the show is some famous stories from the Nights, like Aladdin, Ali Baba, and Abu Hassan's story, but with some new ideas. And it's with puppets and masks. I think the arts can speak a language which doesn't matter if you don't know each other's spoken language, and they surpass that. And I think it speaks through feelings, and so it's a very human connection, and that's what we hope to do today. For us, this is very special, because as you would know the Arabian Nights story, they come from many countries. They come from Egypt, they come from India, they come from China, they come from Syria. So this entire belt is where the stories come from. So it's very special for us that we are here performing. So it's with this artistic relation and the relation of the story, it's I think it's a very special evening. It's spectacular. It's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful space with so many beautiful theaters. We are very happy to be here, and it's a big honor for us to be here today.
So the show is called the Nights. It's based on the Arabian Nights, and my role is I'm on stage as one of the characters, but mostly I did the sound design, and I'm one of the co-writers of the show. We've been building this show for some years now. We started actually in 2020, and at that time then there was the coronavirus pandemic, so we had to stop for a year, and then we started to build again. And me and the co-writer, her name is Aditi Rao, we used some of the original stories of Arabian Nights, but we want to tell them in a new way for new audiences. So we focus on different characters, and we try to. Two of the stories are really well known. Aladdin and Ali Baba, but we pick a third story that is not so well known. So that, yeah. I think culturally there are a lot of similarities between Egypt and India. It's my first time here, so I don't know the city that well, but we got a chance to travel a little bit around Cairo yesterday, and I'll come from Delhi, and even in Delhi there is a mix of the traditional, the old city and the new modern city, and they are almost like one on top of each other. And I see that that's similar in Cairo, and I feel like very connected to the few people that I have met here. I feel quite connected. There's a similar history with British people and then post-colonialism, and two countries very proud of their own traditional culture. But also moving into in the 21st century into kind of new languages, new forms. So I feel there's a very nice link between the two, between Egypt and India here. Honestly, this is my first experience of the festival, and today is our first show. I'm really looking forward to playing in front of a local audience. I know there will be some Indians in the audience, but mostly I'm excited to see what the local Egyptian audience thinks of the play and how they respond to it, because Arabian Nights are very well known across the world, and I think that the whole excitement of performing in a different country is to see what a different audience, how they see the show. In India, sometimes it's familiar to us, we know those audiences, so I'm very glad we have the opportunity here to bring Indian shows to an Egyptian audience. I wish the opposite is also possible, that Egyptian shows come to India as well.
Give me the lamp first, my child. No, put me up first. Give me the lamp. Are you crazy? Put me up. Give me the lamp. Will you give me the lamp or not? No!
This production is like we are starting in 2019 before the lockdown, and then suddenly it's lockdown happened and we couldn't find the space where we rehearse, and then we can start rehearsing online, and then in 2021 we get on the floor and start our practice. So I'm playing like 3-4 characters: Ali Baba, Aladdin, and Abu Hassan. These are the main character in this play. So I'm playing those characters. Before that, in 2018, I came here, the same festival, India by the Nile. That time we perform Images of Truth. It's about Gandhi's life. The show is about Gandhi's life. I think the last time we found like it's very excited and people love the Indian culture and they love like what we did on stage. So yeah, that's the amazing for us, and they give us lots of energy to on stage when we perform. My things are it's like in Egypt also it's lots of cultural happening. In India it's also lots of culture. So we are very strong in culture. You have lots of like history, and we have also like history from like old, and you are the oldest history you have. So it's amazing, and also the like people are so humble here, and very they welcome, very warm welcome they give us when we arrive here. So it's amazing for us. So this is, I think this is my first time I perform in like opera house, and the street food is amazing. We had lots of street food, and the chai is quite good, and Turkish coffee is amazing for me. Yes.
We've been in conversation. The conversation has been on for about 2 years before the show opened. I've been involved in this play as a light designer, and so we've been sort of talking about the design of the show and how it's going to look, what the general aesthetics of it would be, where we're going to set it, how to place it, where, how much we want sort of fully comfortably visible, how much we want to hide, how much we want to conceal. All those questions have sort of been on for a while. And we started properly working on the play in rehearsal for about 2 months before we opened. We opened about a year ago, and it's also constantly changing. So even here, what we're going to present tonight is slightly different from what we did, say, a year ago when we toured in France.
I told you I'm not your uncle. We are total opposite. He So, tell me, Merata, what do you want?
Sir, then let me see if you can get me out of this game.
Merata, this is a magic lamp. Here, on the hand. And you are the master.
India by the Nile Festival is one of the most significant artistic festivals. The shows reflect the Indian culture. The main aim of the festival is to enhance relations between Egypt and India in the field of art. Basma Taha for Cultural Magazine.
We're here at the Cairo Opera House, a cultural hub that brings you all different forms of art, such as music, painting, and photography. Let's go find out more about what the Cairo Opera House has to offer.
The Cairo Opera Company, under the supervision of its artistic director Dr. Iman Mustafa, presented a selection from the world's most famous operas with the participation of the English pianist Greg Martin and directed by Haizam Tail.
Tonight's concert is a gala concert, a selection of the famous arias of different operas from the French, Italian repertoire. Tonight I'll be singing Charlotte's aria from the French opera Werther, and the aria is called Va laisse couler mes larmes, and this is one of the most famous arias in the French repertoire. It's always the same concentration, it's always the same focus, and once we're on stage we are usually so into the song and the aria and the mood of the personaggio that we are performing. I'd like to thank everyone in the Cairo Opera House. It's like our second home, and we always feel proud to be a part of this great place, and I hope it will always be one of the most important cultural and artistical places in Egypt.
The program included lyrical excerpts from the world's most famous operas, including La Bohème, Tosca by Puccini, The Marriage of Figaro, The Magic Flute by Mozart, Elixir of Love by Donizetti, The Barber of Seville by Rossini, Carmen by Bizet, as well as some works by Verdi and Lihar.
Today I'm going to perform an aria from the opera Elisir d'Amour. It's called Benedette queste carte. It's very fun. Actually, there is not much to say about it, except that it's a very fun aria. It has very high notes. It's very catchy for the audience, and I hope everybody's going to like it today. Actually, there's a variety of things, you know. People are not going to feel like bored or anything like this, because there is sad songs, there is happy songs. There is a variety of areas which is actually very rich. It's a very rich concert indeed. Cairo Opera House, it made my dream came true. Actually, you're going to make me emotional, you know, because ever since I was a child, my dream was to become a singer. And this place, it gave me everything. It taught me everything I know. And I'm standing here today because of actually Dr. Iman Mustafa. She's the one who supported me throughout my journey. And I hope that I can someday return anything that this place gave me through the years.
It is worth noting that the Cairo Opera Company was officially formed in 1964 and presented many of the most famous international operas, and its repertoire included more than 32 famous operatic novels, and its members also participated in huge performances on the biggest theaters in the world and succeeded in forming a fan base interested in the operatic singing as one of the finest art forms. Tonight was decorated with a selection of the most famous operas sang by strong professional voices that took us into a journey of originality and classness and also defined the real meaning of fine arts. Shuruq Bikir, Cultural Magazine.
This brings us to the end of this episode of Cultural Magazine. Hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more on Nile TV.